Dim the lights, grab a snack, and try to relax. But don't say I didn't warn you. My parents didn't leave often. When they did, they never left me alone. But that Friday night was different. They had some emergency at my dad's company, something about a failed generator in a remote facility. My mom insisted they'd be back by morning. I was 13, and though I hated being treated like a baby, I wasn't thrilled about a stranger watching me overnight. But my parents said, "Miss Lila has watched plenty of kids. She's sweet." They didn't mention the rules. Miss Lila showed up right before dusk. She was tall, thin, her skin pale as porcelain, and her dark eyes almost too large for her face. Her smile was tight, like someone who didn't know how to be around kids but was trying real hard to fake it. She wore gloves, tight black leather gloves, even though it was sweltering outside. That should have been my first clue. After my parents left, she made me a grilled cheese and sat at the kitchen island watching me eat. Her eyes never blinked. Her smile never moved. The silence grew unbearable. Then she stood, reached into her oversized purse, and handed me a folded piece of yellowed paper. "This is for you," she said. I took it slowly, noticing the paper wasn't just yellow, it was old. Stained. The creases were worn from being folded too many times. At the top, in deep red ink, or what I hoped was ink, were the words. "Rules to stay safe until morning." Below that, it said in shaky handwriting. 1. Don't open the front door. Not for anyone. Even if they sound like your parents. 2. If you hear scratching under your bed, don't look. Just say, "Not tonight." 3 times. 3. The thing in the mirror isn't your reflection after 12:04 a.m. Cover all mirrors with sheets before then. 4. At 1:33 a.m., a man may knock on your window. He's not real unless you speak to him. Do not speak. 5. If you smell lavender and rotten meat, lock yourself in the bathroom and don't come out until the smell fades. 6. Miss Lila is here to keep you safe. But if her left eye turns white, lock yourself in the attic. Don't let her follow. I looked up at her, my stomach twisting. Is this a joke? Her smile was gone now. Her face had gone blank. "I don't joke," she said. "Not about them." Then, without another word, she walked to the living room and turned on the TV, static blaring from the speakers, and just stared. I sat there holding the list, heart thumping. That night would be the longest of my life. And it was only just beginning that at 10:27 p.m., I was still sitting on the couch, the list clutched in my hand, when I heard a soft knock at the front door. Not a loud one. Just a polite tap, tap, tap. Miss Lila didn't even flinch. She kept staring at the TV, which was now nothing but a silent screen of swirling static. I stood up slowly. "Miss Lila?" I asked, keeping my voice low. She didn't answer. "Someone's at the door." Her lips moved, but barely. "Don't open it." "I know, but..." "Don't open it. Not even a crack. Not even a peek." I froze. Then the knock came again. Louder. More insistent. Then, "Sweetheart," came my mom's voice. "It's me, honey. I forgot my charger inside. Open up." My stomach dropped. It sounded exactly like her. I crept toward the door, my hand trembling as it reached for the knob. I knew the rule. I knew it. But the voice, it was so perfect. So real. So loving. Then I noticed something. The porch light was on. But no shadows were underneath it. No silhouette. No shape. Just emptiness. That's when Miss Lila screamed. A high, inhuman screech like a siren going off in the living room. I turned around to find her crawling, across the floor on all fours, her limbs bending in ways they shouldn't. Back. Away. From. The door, she howled, voice distorted. I stumbled backward just as the doorknob jiggled. My fake mom's voice on the other side went low and guttural. Shouldn't have listened to her, it growled. She's not the one who loves you. Then silence. I collapsed to the floor. My ears were ringing. My chest heaving. Miss Lila crawled back toward the couch and sat again like nothing had happened. That's when I noticed something horrifying. Her left eye. It was starting to fade to white that I didn't move. I watched as Miss Lila's left eye faded, not all at once, but like a cloud swallowing the moon. The pupil dissolved. The iris turned milky. A slow, eerie wash of pale gray overtook the black. My breathing grew sharp and shallow. The rules. Rule 6. If her left eye turns white, lock yourself in the attic. Don't let her follow. I grabbed the list again and double-checked it, my hands trembling. It was real. I hadn't imagined it. Miss Lila turned toward me. But her body didn't move, only her neck, cracking as it twisted unnaturally far to the left. Her face wore a crooked, too wide grin. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It's too early." She stood. And I ran. I bolted down the hallway and up the stairs, skipping 3 at a time, nearly tripping on the landing rug. The attic door was a pull-down ladder. I jumped, grabbing the string and yanking it with all my strength. The ladder fell. Behind me, her footsteps pounded up the stairs. I scrambled up into the attic and kicked the ladder until it folded, then slammed the hatch shut. It locked automatically. Pitch dark. Except for the flicker of a dim, buzzing light bulb hanging above a stack of old boxes. I fell against the floor, gasping. From below, I heard scratching. Slow, deliberate, scratching at the wood. Then a voice. Hers. But distorted. Not quite hers anymore. "You shouldn't hide from me. I'm here to keep you safe. You remember that, right?" I didn't answer. "Do you know what happens," she hissed, "when you break the rules?" I closed my eyes and waited. The scratching stopped. But then. I heard something breathing in the attic with me. The attic was silent. Except for that breathing. Low. Wet. Labored. It wasn't mine. It came from behind a stack of old Christmas boxes piled near the far wall, half lit by the swaying bulb overhead. I froze, mouth dry, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. Something was up here with me. I stayed still as death, barely daring to breathe. The air felt thick, like breathing through syrup. Dust floated in the light. My skin prickled with cold sweat. Then I remembered something. There had been no rule about the attic. Only what to do if Miss Lila's eye turned white. Which meant whatever was up here wasn't covered by the rules. I inched backward until my spine pressed against a wall. My eyes scanned the floor, looking for something, anything, to protect myself. That's when I saw it. A child's doll. Porcelain. Broken. Face cracked down the middle. Its painted blue eyes stared straight at me, and one of them slowly rolled to the side. No wind. No vibration. No motion. It did it on its own. Then the boxes behind it shifted. I gasped and crawled away, heartbeat deafening in my ears. The breathing grew louder. Sloppier. Something exhaled like a beast sniffing the air. I crawled toward the corner of the attic, where my dad once kept his old hunting gear, and grabbed a rusted flashlight. Click. Nothing. Click click. Dead. Then I heard it speak. Not words. Just a mimicry of human voice. Like someone who had never spoken before trying to imitate language. Boy. My blood ran cold. The boxes exploded outward as a black shape launched across the attic. It moved like a spider, long-limbed, twitching, head scraping the low ceiling. I screamed. But the thing didn't attack, it just watched me. Hunched. Breathing. Its face, if you could call it that, had no eyes. No nose. Just a wide, lipless mouth that smiled. Then it slowly raised a claw and pointed. Toward the attic hatch. Tap. 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 Miss Lila was back. And she was singing. The attic hatch vibrated softly as Miss Lila's fingers tapped against the wood from below. Her voice drifted upward like a lullaby drenched in static. Little boy lost, little boy blind. Let me in or I'll eat your mind. The thing beside me, the faceless thing, sat crouched and still. But its finger never wavered. It kept pointing at the attic door like it wanted her in. Like it needed her here. Or maybe it was warning me. I whispered, trembling, "What are you?" It didn't answer. Instead, its mouth opened wider, too wide, unhinging like a snake's. Inside, I didn't see teeth. I saw faces. Blurred, distorted faces, screaming silently from the darkness of its throat. One of them looked like mine. I backed away slowly. From below, Miss Lila began to scratch. Not gently. Viciously. Deep gouges tearing through the wood like claws instead of nails. I pressed my back to the wall again, trapped between a singing, possessed babysitter below, and a faceless mimic thing breathing beside me. Then it moved. Slowly. Crawling backward into the shadows, disappearing into the corner behind the insulation like it had never been there. Gone. Just like that. I didn't even hear it leave. Then. The attic light flickered once. Twice. Then died. And everything went black. Then I heard the attic hatch unlock itself. Click. I held my breath as it creaked open. And I saw her pale hand reach up through the darkness. But it wasn't Miss Lila's voice that came next. It was my mother's. Sweetie. I found you. Let's go home. No. No, no, no. The list. Rule 1. Even if they sound like your parents. I didn't answer. Then I heard something behind me, whispering softly, only this time, not the monster. It was a child's voice. Very close. Very sad. She's not the one I needed to fear. The attic hatch stood open. Her hand, white, too white, gripped the edge of the frame. Sweetie, my mother's voice said again, gently. Come with me. Everything's okay now. I couldn't move. My body was locked in place by pure terror. Then the attic floor creaked behind me. I turned. Slowly. In the dim, dying light from the open hatch, I saw the thing again. It wasn't in the shadows anymore. It was standing. No longer crawling. No longer twitching. Standing tall. Too tall. Its long arm reached out. Its bony, skinless fingers held something. A folded sheet of paper. Another list. It held it out to me, and didn't move until I took it. Then it backed into the dark again. Gone. I unfolded the paper slowly. At the top, in the same blood-colored ink, it said, "The real rules. Do not trust the first list. Do not trust the one who gives it to you." My blood ran cold. The handwriting was different, sharper, frantic. Beneath it were new instructions, scribbled violently. 1. The woman downstairs is not Miss Lila. Don't speak her name again. She listens when you do. 2. The thing in the attic was a child once. It watches, but it doesn't hurt, unless you break the rules. 3. Cover your ears at exactly 2:04 a.m. You'll hear a voice that begs. It's a trap. 4. There is a photo in the basement you must burn. You'll know which one. 5. When the house begins to breathe, lie flat. Do not move. Even if something crawls across your chest. 6. If you find a second version of yourself, do not run. Do not scream. Ask it, "What did you bury?" 7. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. I stared at the page, heart racing. I looked back at the attic hatch. The woman's face now peeked up at me, only it wasn't a face anymore. It was changing. The smile too wide. The skin melting slightly. Her eyes now completely black. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her mouth just opened. And another voice came out. A voice I didn't recognize. "Time's almost up, little liar." I stayed frozen, gripping the second list like a lifeline. The thing at the attic door wasn't pretending to be my mom anymore. Its skin was blistering, sagging like wet clay, and its lips were stretching open unnaturally, revealing rows, not of teeth, but of fingers. Little twitching baby-like fingers, jutting from its gums like it had chewed through someone and kept a souvenir. It started crawling in. Not climbing, crawling, upside down, head tilted backward like it didn't know how human joints worked. Its fingernails scraped wood with a sound like knives on bone. I didn't think. I jumped from the attic. I hit the hallway floor hard, twisting my ankle, but I didn't stop. I slammed the attic hatch shut behind me. The old latch clicked. For now. I hobbled fast, limping down the stairs into the quiet, dark house. The static on the TV had stopped. Everything was still. Too still. The hallway light buzzed. I looked to the left, toward the kitchen. Miss Lila was sitting at the table again, like she'd never moved. Hands folded. Staring. Only now, there were 3 of her. One at the table. One standing in the hallway mirror, even though I hadn't seen her walk there. And one standing behind the coat rack, missing a face. I backed away slowly. That's when I remembered the next rule from the second list. Cover all mirrors before 12:04 a.m. I checked the time on the grandfather clock. 12:09. Too late. The reflection in the hallway mirror turned toward me and smiled, even though the real Miss Lila's body hadn't moved. Its smile was crooked, jagged. Eyes pitch black. Then it whispered from the glass. You weren't supposed to find the second list. The lights flickered. Miss Lila at the table began to twitch, violently, like a glitching marionette. And the faceless one behind the coat rack. It began to move, the faceless one moved like a puppet with its strings cut, jerky, collapsing, then surging upright again. It reached for me with arms too long, fingers that shook like dying branches. I turned and ran. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to get away from them, away from the mirrors, the twitching versions of Miss Lila, the black-eyed reflection that whispered my name like it owned me. I stumbled toward the basement door and yanked it open. The smell hit me instantly. Lavender. And rotting meat. Rule 5 from the first list. If you smell lavender and rotten meat, lock yourself in the bathroom and don't come out until the smell fades. But the second list had made it clear. The first rules weren't real. The smell got stronger as I descended the creaking wooden steps, light flickering above me like it was afraid to shine too far. The basement was colder than it should have been. And darker. My foot hit something soft halfway down. I looked. A stuffed animal. A rabbit. Its eyes missing. Stitching split open like it had been bitten into. Then the light above me exploded. Glass rained down. Total darkness. I pulled out my phone. 5% battery. No signal. I turned on the flashlight. And saw the photo. It sat in a frame on the far wall, mounted crookedly above a row of rusted tools. A single spotlight, a bulb still flickering, illuminated it from above like it wanted to be seen. It was a picture of me. And someone standing behind me. Someone tall. Pale. Wearing gloves. Miss Lila. But it wasn't from tonight. It was from when I was a baby. She was standing in my nursery. Smiling. I backed away, the flashlight beam shaking wildly in my hand. Then I heard something behind me breathe. Do you know what you are? It whispered. I turned. And saw me. Not a reflection. Not a hallucination. A second version of me. Hair slightly longer. Eyes duller. Covered in dust and cobwebs like it had been down here for years. It stared at me with a tilt to its head. And then it asked. What did you bury? It just stood there. Me. But, not me. Its skin was too pale. Like wax left out too long. Its lips were dry and peeling. Its clothes were a perfect match, down to the hoodie I was wearing tonight. But its eyes were dead. Dead and knowing. Answer me, it whispered again, voice raspy. What did you bury? I stepped backward, flashlight trembling in my hand. I didn't. I haven't buried anything. It didn't blink. Didn't move. Then it raised one finger. And pointed to the far side of the basement. Toward a patch of dirt. I hadn't noticed it before, but now the smell was stronger. Sour. Wet. Fresh. My feet moved on their own, one step at a time. Each footfall echoed as if the basement were stretching wider than it should. The floorboards above groaned. Something thumped once, twice, as if pacing above me. I reached the dirt patch. And saw it. A small plastic shovel. The kind you give to children at the beach. Stuck in a shallow grave. I dropped to my knees, heart hammering. My fingers dug into the soil. It was loose. Like someone had been there recently. I uncovered a blanket. Child-sized. Stained. Shaking, I pulled it back. And what I saw underneath was a doll. No. Not a doll. A body. My body. The real me. Or maybe an older version. Or younger. Or something else entirely. Its eyes were missing. Its mouth was sewn shut with red thread. But on its chest was a note. Pinned to its shirt with a rusted safety pin. It read. Do not feed after midnight. Do not follow her into the mirror. Do not bury your memories. Suddenly, the lights above flickered on. And the basement door slammed shut. From behind me, the other me started laughing. Dry and slow, like it hadn't done it in years. She made you forget, it hissed. But I remembered. I remembered what she did to us. What you let her do. Then it screamed. Not at me. At something behind me. I turned. And saw Miss Lila standing there. But not as a woman. Not anymore. She was taller. Thinner. Her jaw unhinged, stretching. Hair slithering like snakes. Her gloves gone, revealing long black claws. She reached out. And said in a voice that was every voice I'd ever loved. Come back to sleep, sweetheart. You were never supposed to wake up. She stood in the doorway like a living shadow. Miss Lila. No. Longer pretending to be human. Her arms scraped the floor, fingertips twitching like antennae. Her eyes were gone, just empty sockets dripping something black. Her mouth kept shifting, glitching through the faces of people I knew. My mom. My dad. My second-grade teacher. Even my own. You buried me, the other me whispered, backing into the corner. You forgot. You were made to forget. But I remembered every single second she watched us sleep. Miss Lila stepped into the basement, and the air went cold. Not like winter, cold like death, like the kind of cold that sits beneath soil. She lifted a claw and dragged it across the wall. And the house began to breathe. The walls flexed in and out, like lungs inflating. The ceiling above pulsed. Pipes groaned like veins moving blood. The second list had warned me. When the house begins to breathe, lie flat. Do not move. Even if something crawls across your chest. I dropped. Hit the floor hard, sprawled over splinters and dirt. My flashlight flickered out. Pitch black. The only sound was her clicking footsteps and the creaking of walls expanding and retracting like a sleeping body. Something brushed my chest. I froze. Something small. Wet. It crept across me, soft feet, skittering. Like fingers. Or tongues. Then I heard a whisper, not in my ears, but inside my head. You shouldn't have remembered. Now you have to stay. The real horror wasn't just that she had taken others before me. It was that I was never the first version of myself. I was one of many. Every time a child saw too much. Woke up during the wrong hour. Miss Lila just made a new one. Wiped the memories. Buried the body. Started again. The other me hissed from the corner. Ask her what's in the mirror. Ask her. I stood, heart pounding. Dust in my mouth. Blood on my hands. I looked Miss Lila in her empty face and whispered, "What's in the mirror?" And for the first time, she stopped moving. Then slowly, painfully, she longer pretending to be human. Her arms scraped the floor, fingertips twitching like antennae. Her eyes were gone, just empty sockets dripping something black. Her mouth kept shifting, glitching through the faces of people I knew. My mom. My dad. My second-grade teacher. Even my own. "You buried me," the other me whispered, backing into the corner. "You forgot. You were made to forget." But I remembered every single second she watched us sleep. Miss Lila stepped into the basement, and the air went cold. Not like winter, cold like death, like the kind of cold that sits beneath soil. She lifted a claw and dragged it across the wall. And the house began to breathe. The walls flexed in and out, like lungs inflating. The ceiling above pulsed. Pipes groaned like veins moving blood. The second list had warned me. When the house begins to breathe, lie flat. Do not move. Even if something crawls across your chest. I dropped. Hit the floor hard, sprawled over splinters and dirt. My flashlight flickered out. Pitch black. The only sound was her clicking footsteps and the creaking of walls expanding and retracting like a sleeping body. Something brushed my chest. I froze. Something small. Wet. It crept across me, soft feet, skittering. Like fingers. Or tongues. Then I heard a whisper, not in my ears, but inside my head. "You shouldn't have remembered. Now you have to stay." The real horror wasn't just that she had taken others before me. It was that I was never the first version of myself. I was one of many. Every time a child saw too much. Woke up during the wrong hour. Miss Lila just made a new one. Wiped the memories. Buried the body. Started again. The other me hissed from the corner. "Ask her what's in the mirror. Ask her." I stood, heart pounding. Dust in my mouth. Blood on my hands. I looked Miss Lila in her empty face and whispered, "What's in the mirror?" And for the first time, she stopped moving. Then slowly, painfully, she lifted one finger. And pointed upward. Not to the ceiling. To the hallway mirror upstairs. And whispered, "Go see what crawled out of you." I ran. I didn't care that the house was groaning like a dying animal beneath my feet, that the walls breathed around me, that Miss Lila had vanished into the shadows like smoke in reverse. I ran for the hallway mirror. The one I should have covered before 12:04. Each stair creaked louder than the last. The second list trembled in my fist like it wanted to tear itself free. The attic above groaned once, just once, as if something shifted behind the wood. But I didn't look up. I reached the hallway. The mirror stood tall. Untouched. And now it was glowing faintly from within, like it had its own backlight, just enough to reveal the smudges on the glass, and the fingerprints pressed on the inside. Not mine. Not human. Long thin. Crawling. I stepped closer. At first, my reflection looked normal. Pale. Wide-eyed. Scared. But then it smiled. I didn't. Its mouth moved slowly. Carefully. "Let me in." I stumbled back, heart hammering. My reflection stepped forward, still inside the glass, but closer now, pressing its face against the surface. Its eyes were mine, but they wept black. Its skin was stretched. Pocked with stitch marks along the jaw. Its neck bore bruises, like a rope had once hugged it tight. Then I noticed something in its hands. The first list. The one Miss Lila gave me. It held it like a trophy. Then, slowly, the figure turned around. And I saw what was behind it. A room. Not my hallway. Not my house. A gray, endless room filled with copies of me, hundreds, some stitched, some broken, some sobbing silently. Some banging on glass with bloody knuckles. And standing in the middle of them all. Her. Miss Lila. But her face was no longer smooth. No longer even human. It was peeled back, hollowed out like a doll's skull stuffed with moths. Her eyes blinked from inside her mouth. Her smile was sewn shut and still moved. The mirror pulsed. Then it cracked. Just once. But that was enough. A hairline fracture split my reflection's face in two, left and right, and something crawled out of the crack. Long, thin. Gray. A finger. It was reaching through. I fell back and screamed. From the attic above, something screamed back, in my own voice that I scrambled back, palms slick with sweat and dirt, as the finger slid through the mirror like it wasn't glass anymore, like it had turned to water. But water doesn't click when it moves. This thing's joints popped with every inch it extended. The crack spread. Widened. Then the entire surface began to bend inward, like something huge was leaning against it from the other side. My reflection split open, jagged like a broken zipper, and from inside it stepped out. It wasn't just a reflection. It wasn't just me. It was the version of me that had never forgotten. The one I'd buried beneath fake memories, under normal nights and happy childhoods. His face was mine. But gaunt. Like he hadn't eaten in weeks. His fingers were too long. His teeth, too many. "Thanks for opening the door," he said, voice lined with static. "It's so much easier the second time." I backed against the hallway wall. "You're not me." He smiled. "No. I'm the part you threw away. When she made you perfect. When she scrubbed your brain clean and left you soft. Safe. Shiny." He stepped closer. "I remember everything. The basement. The scratching. The real Lila. The deal." "What deal?" I choked out. He grinned wider. "You gave up your nightmares. In exchange, she got the rest of you." He reached into his coat and pulled something out. A matchbox. Old. Wooden. Charred. He tossed it to me. "You want to break the cycle," he whispered. "Burn it. Burn the photo. Burn the house. Burn me. That's the only way to end this." Then, screaming. From the attic. From the mirror. From inside me. Miss Lila's voice, twisting, furious, ripped through the walls like a hurricane. "You will not leave again," she shrieked, her voice no longer pretending. "You are mine. Every version. Every cell." Then the walls began to bleed. Thick, black ichor poured from the corners of the ceiling, running in fast rivulets down the wallpaper. The breathing house began to groan in agony. My double turned to me one last time. "If you don't finish this, she'll just start again. And next time." He pointed at the mirror, where another version of me was already forming behind the glass. "She'll make one who never questions anything." He vanished down the stairs. And I was left alone in a hallway soaked in rot, holding a box of matches, and staring into a mirror that no longer reflected anything at all. Only a growing darkness. And the whisper. Sleep now. Sleep forever. The house was alive now. It didn't even pretend to be a house anymore. Its walls pulsed with slow, rotten rhythms. Floorboards twisted beneath my feet, warping like they wanted to break my ankles. That thick black ichor ran down every surface, seeping from vents and light sockets, pooling on the carpet like veins rupturing beneath skin. I held the matchbox tight. One match already burned between my fingers, just to feel something real. The mirror behind me still whispered. Low. Hungry. From upstairs, Miss Lila screamed in languages I'd never heard before. And beneath it all, I heard lullabies. Childish. Warped. Dozens of them overlapping. As if multiple mothers were trying to sing me to sleep. I moved through the hallway, my ears ringing, the match flickering weakly in the gloom. Then I saw it. The nursery door. At the end of the hallway. A door that shouldn't exist. One I hadn't seen in years. One my parents said was just storage now. It was painted blue. Faded. Covered in faint, peeling stickers, rocking horses, moons, stars, all rotted into mold. But worse than that. It was breathing. Not the way the house had been. The way the house had been. The door itself. In. Out. In. Out. Like it was trying to calm itself down. I stepped closer. Each footstep echoed like it was being swallowed. My shoes squelched in the blood pooling from the walls. The air grew thicker. Clammier. I reached out and touched the doorknob. Cold. Like the skin of a corpse. The moment I turned it. Silence. The house went still. No whispers. No breathing. No creaking floorboards. Nothing. I pushed the door open. Inside the nursery, it was perfect. Untouched. A rocking chair swayed gently on its own. The crib was clean. Toys lined the shelves. And in the center of the room. A picture frame. Glowing faintly. It pulsed like a heartbeat. I stepped toward it, the match still flickering in my hand. Inside the frame wasn't a photo. It was a mirror. Smaller. Older. And in it, a child. Not me. But familiar. Too familiar. He was looking right at me, crying silently, mouthing a phrase over and over. You promised you'd come back. I dropped to my knees. The match in my hand was burning my fingers. I stared at the flame. And for the first time, the house begged me not to. A voice from the walls, desperate, motherly, monstrous. He was the first. You were the replacement. If you burn that, you burn everything I saved. I looked back into the mirror. The boy now screamed. Blood began to pour from his eyes. And behind him, Miss Lila. Crawling. Reaching. Smiling. I struck a second match. Then a third. The frame screamed. So did the house. As the mirror frame ignited, the reflection shattered with a shriek that sounded like a dying animal, or a child being torn from sleep forever. The boy inside, gone. Consumed. Miss Lila's shadow. It didn't vanish. It crawled out. Not in form. In smoke. Thick. Slithering. With a smell like old cribs and burned hair. The flames climbed the nursery walls, but they didn't offer light. They turned everything into silhouette. The rocking horse tipped over by itself. The crib began to rattle. And under my knees, I felt it. A thud. Not from above. From below. I looked down. The carpet near the crib pulsed once, then tore open like a scab. Beneath it, wooden slats. Old. Blackened. Chained shut. A trapdoor. I leaned closer and the scent hit me. Not rot. Not mold. Milk. Baby powder. And sulfur. The chains on the trapdoor uncoiled by themselves. One link at a time. Like fingers unclenching after a long sleep. And from under it came the sound of lullabies. Sung off key. Dozens of them. Then something else. Scratching. Slow at first. Then rapid. Then knocking. Then, screaming. I hesitated. But the house shoved me. Hard. I fell through the trapdoor as it snapped open, splinters driving into my palms. I tumbled into blackness, deeper than the house should allow. The match was gone. Everything was cold. And damp. I landed on something soft. Something that moved. Dozens of dolls. Old. Glass-eyed. Cracked. Human teeth in their mouths. They whispered in unison. She doesn't want you to remember. She only wants you to sleep. A flicker of light shone at the far end of the crawlspace. I crawled toward it, the ground squirming beneath me. And I saw it. A second crib. Buried under the house. Surrounded by photos nailed to the walls. Photos of children. Not just me. Hundreds. Each with a name scratched out. In the crib was something wrapped in blankets. Breathing. Not asleep. Waiting. Miss Lila's voice coiled through the space. Some things you don't burn. You bury. And you leave them alone. I reached for the blanket. The thing inside opened its eyes. And they were mine, its eyes were mine. But not from a mirror. Not a reflection. This thing in the crib was me, if I had never left this place. Me, if I had grown up under the floorboards. Fed lullabies instead of food. Loved by something that doesn't understand what love is. Its skin was wrong. Too smooth. Too perfect. Like wax melted over bone. And it smiled. Wide. The way I'd never been able to. Are you going to take me home? It whispered. Its voice sounded like mine before my tonsils were removed. I backed away, gagging on the scent in the air, like old milk and embalming fluid. The thing sat up in the crib, no longer an infant. It had grown. Instantly. Now it was about 7. Its arms stretched unnaturally long. Its teeth sharpened, like it had chewed glass for breakfast. Mommy never came back for me, it said. But she sent you. So that's fair. From behind me, chains rattled. The trapdoor had sealed shut. Miss Lila's voice screamed through the walls now, no longer calm and syrupy. Put it back. Cover it. Forget what you saw. I turned. The creature stepped out of the crib. And grew again. It was now my age. Wearing my pajamas. Smiling with my fear. Its skin blistered where the nursery fire above still burned. But it didn't care. If you leave me again, it hissed, I'll crawl into your bed. Wear your name. And let her tuck me in for real this time. It raised one finger, burned black like charcoal, and pointed behind me. I turned. The walls of the crawlspace had changed. They were now beds. Lined in rows. Each bed had a child in it. But the faces were blurred. Some were missing limbs. Some were just hollow skin sacks that breathed. All of them whispered in unison. One of us. One of us. One of us. The wax boy grabbed my wrist. His grip burned. His fingers crawled under my skin. Then the lullabies stopped. And something deeper spoke. You woke it up. Now it wants out. Choose who goes back upstairs. Its grip tightened, burning into my bones like hot wire. The creature, the other me, was now identical to me in every way, except for its eyes. Mine held fear. His held hunger. We can't both go, it whispered. So choose, before the house does. The beds around us began to writhe. Children, half-formed, faces blurred, started to crawl out. Some without eyes. Some with mouths stitched shut. Some still glowing with the heat of their own nursery fires. All whispering. Take our place. Sleep. Obey the rules. One child, its skin completely peeled, grabbed my ankle and pulled. The ground beneath me softened like flesh. The house was absorbing me. No, 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 I kicked, fought, twisted. Until I remembered the last line of rule number 7. If you ever find yourself in a place that shouldn't exist, don't scream. Don't pray. Bite your tongue and count to 7. I did. 1. 2. 3. The creature screamed. 4. 5. The bed stopped writhing. 6. A blinding white crack opened above the crib. 7. A flash. And I was back upstairs. The trapdoor slammed shut under my feet. I was covered in soot. Ash. Teeth. Miss Lila stood in the corner. Only, it wasn't her anymore. Her face slid off like melted wax. Underneath was something older than human. Something stitched together from bones and lullabies. She had no eyes now. Just deep, bleeding sockets filled with flickering candlelight. And she said, in a voice made of broken music boxes. You didn't choose. So I will. She raised one hand, 5 fingers, each one carved with a different name. And one finger bent backward. Snapped clean off. My name whispered into the air like a curse. You're no longer the watcher, she said. You're the watched. The hallway lights all exploded at once. Then silence. But I heard something. Something coming back up from the trapdoor. The thing I didn't choose. And it had my face. But not my soul. I don't remember how I got out of the chair. One moment, I was tied. The next, the ropes were gone, burned away like old thread. I stood in the corner of the room, trembling. Watching it wear my life like a favorite sweater. Miss Lila offered it a glass of warm milk. You've earned it, she whispered. I took a step forward and the house groaned, loud and deep, like a throat preparing to vomit. The walls pulsed. And the family photos changed. My parents were still in them, smiling. But the child between them wasn't me. It was the thing. Wearing my clothes. Holding my birthday cake. Hugging my dog. And I was in the background. In the shadows. Blurry. Watching. The floorboards under my feet began to reject me. I could feel it, like walking barefoot on a tongue. Every inch of the house hated me now. What happens to me? I asked. Miss Lila finally turned to me. For the first time in hours, days, or maybe longer. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. You become the one who writes the rules now, she said quietly. But first, you must understand what happens to those who break them. Suddenly, the walls opened, not like doors, but like splitting skin. Inside were hundreds of rooms. Identical nurseries. Identical bedrooms. Identical children. All versions of me. All pale, faded, whispering things backwards. Not all of you made it out, Lila said. Some screamed when they should have listened. Some followed the wrong voice. Some begged the wrong parent to come back. She stepped closer. And some, like you, let the wrong self be named. I stumbled backward and tripped into one of the walls. It swallowed me whole. Now I was in a hallway. Long, endless. Each door had a label. The quiet version. The one who ran. The one who bit her tongue too late. The one who screamed in the attic. I walked. At the end of the hallway was a door that looked like mine. My childhood door. With the glow-in-the-dark stickers and peeling Batman decal. But this one had a new name scratched into it. The Forgotten. My hand reached out. Even though I didn't want it to. And from behind me, the thing wearing my face whispered. Go ahead. It's where you belong. My hand hovered over the knob. It was cold. Not refrigerator cold, but grave cold. Like it had been buried in the dirt for years and only just dug up. I turned it. The door didn't creak. It sighed. As if it had been waiting for me to come back, like a tired parent finally opening the door to a runaway child. Inside was my room. But not as I remembered it. The bed was smaller. The toys were older. The wallpaper, it was breathing. Yes, breathing. The Spider-Man border peeled in and out like lungs. The stars on the ceiling blinked. And on the dresser, there were photographs I didn't remember taking. I picked one up. It was me. Or rather, a version of me. Standing next to Miss Lila, smiling, holding hands. But my eyes were missing. Not gouged out, just absent. Like whoever took the photo never saw me to begin with. I flipped it over. Written in a child's handwriting. He stayed quiet. He got to stay. I looked through the rest of the photos. Each one was a punishment. One version of me with a mouth sewn shut. One with fingers curled backwards. One with 3 shadows but only one body. And then I found the mirror. Covered with a sheet. Rule number 3 flashed in my head. Don't uncover the mirror in the forgotten room. Too late. I pulled the sheet off. There was no reflection. Just a message written in red. You gave your name away. You gave your face away. But there's one thing left to steal. My eyes began to blur. The room twisted, the walls buckled and stretched until they cracked like ribs. Something crawled out from under the bed. Small. Pale. Crying. It looked like me, but from when I was maybe 3 years old. Naked. Skin raw. Clutching a burned piece of paper in its hand. It looked up. Did you follow all the rules? It whispered. I knelt beside it. I couldn't speak. My throat burned. It pressed the paper into my hand. The same rules list. But only one line remained. If you ever find yourself forgotten, don't let the house remember you. Suddenly the house screamed. The hallway outside snapped shut like a jaw. The small version of me began to shake. Then convulse. It opened its mouth, and my voice came out. But not from the present. From the past. "Mommy, please don't leave me. I'll be good." And just like that, it was gone. Turned to dust. The mirror cracked. A second message appeared beneath the first. "You're almost out of faces." I staggered back from the mirror, heart thundering. Every shard of glass in the room shimmered with fragments of my past, some I remembered, some I didn't. Each piece showed a different version of me, smiling, sobbing, screaming, bleeding. And then one piece moved. Just slightly. Not a trick of light. It waved. The version inside was wearing my favorite hoodie. The one I lost when I was 10. But it wasn't me. Its skin was stretched too tight. Its smile was trembling like a held-back sob. And its eyes. Its eyes were black holes. "You left me here," it said, without opening its mouth. "You forgot me. Now I remember everything." I turned to run. But the door was gone. Not shut. Not locked. Gone. Just a solid wall behind me. The mirror shimmered again. Now the thing inside looked older. My age. My clothes. My panic. But it moved independently now. It pressed both palms against the glass and began to push. Cracks formed, running like veins through the surface. I backed up as it pushed harder, its face grinding against the barrier, mouth opening in a too-wide grin. "Don't let the house remember you." I remembered the warning. Too late. Because the house already had. A siren wailed in the distance, low and slow, like a tornado was approaching. The lights above me flickered, then burst. In the darkness, I could hear something behind the mirror whispering my old lullabies. Not my mother's voice. Not Miss Lila's. My own. And it was coming out of the mirror now. Climbing. Its hands smeared black across the shards. Its knees bent the wrong way. Its spine curled like a centipede. "You got to live," it hissed. "I got to rot." I looked down at the rules still in my hand. The ink had changed. Now it just said, "Only one version survives the mirror. Pick fast. Or be picked." There was a knife on the dresser. I don't know how it got there. Maybe it had always been there. I grabbed it. The thing from the mirror tilted its head, curious. Excited. "Which of us do you think the house prefers?" it asked. The walls began whispering. "Not him. Not him. Not him." Over and over. I clutched the blade. And whispered back. "Then I'll choose myself." I raised the knife. The reflection grinned wider, like it was happy I was finally catching on. "Go ahead," it whispered. "Pick a side." The lights buzzed and pulsed. The ceiling above me sagged like lungs inhaling. And the walls whispered again. "Not him. Not him. Not him." My throat felt like it was closing up. The thing from the mirror stepped forward, out of the glass. One leg first, then an arm, cracking at the joints like snapping twigs. It landed with a wet sound. Stood. Wore my face like a stretched-out mask. Only its smile didn't move. The eyes didn't blink. "You forgot me when you were 5, it said. When you locked me in the closet and pretended I was a dream. Suddenly it was 5 years old. Then 12. Then my age again. Flickering through ages like a glitching tape. I lunged. The knife plunged straight into its chest, but there was no blood. Just black static. It hissed, not in pain, but laughter. "That's not how you win," it said. "This isn't a fight. It's a decision." The knife fell from my hand. Melted into smoke. The mirror behind it repaired itself, like it was rewinding time. I was back in front of it again. Only now. I wasn't alone. Behind my reflection stood every version of me that had ever been left behind. Some crying. Some screaming. One rocking back and forth with its skin peeling off. And in the center of them all stood her. Miss Lila. Holding the original list of rules. She spoke without moving her mouth. "You broke Rule 7. You looked into a mirror that didn't show you. You tried to choose yourself. But which you do you even mean anymore?" The mirror rippled. A hand shot out and grabbed me by the throat. My hand. But colder. Stronger. It pulled. And I fell through. I landed in a hallway. Dim, flickering. Familiar. Photos on the wall. All of me. But with Miss Lila in every one, growing older. The house was empty except for her. And someone else now lived in my skin. I pounded on the walls. Screamed. But the real me was gone. Out there. Living. And the house had made its choice. "Only one version survives the mirror," the voice echoed again. And I had been the one. Left behind that I couldn't breathe. The mirror closed behind me like a sealed coffin. The hallway stretched in both directions, walls lined with frames of me smiling, laughing, growing up in a life I never got to live. And in every picture. My eyes were wrong. Too wide. Too black. Too pleased. "He's living well," a voice whispered behind my ear. "He doesn't even remember you." I spun. The hallway was empty. But the lights above me flickered, and for just a second, there were shadows in the ceiling. Crawling. I ran. Doors passed on either side. Some locked. Some leaking. One pulsed like a heartbeat. Another groaned when I got close, like something inside had been trying to hold its breath for years. I didn't stop. Eventually, I hit a room where everything changed. The walls were lined with eyes. Not painted. Not glass. Real. Blinking. Moist. Each one focused on me as I stepped in. A voice overhead boomed like a god with a grudge. "Welcome to the Watcher's Wing. You belong to them now." Then, a chair rose from the floor. Old wood. Red straps. A broken version of Miss Lila sat beside it, arms melted to the walls, smiling with teeth made of nails. "Time to confess what you forgot," she said. I tried to run. Them, asterisk shot out from the floor and dragged me back. They strapped me into the chair. And above me, the ceiling eyes projected memories onto the wall. Except, they weren't mine. They were twisted versions of my life. Me at my 5th birthday, blowing out candles while something crawled inside the cake. Me learning to ride a bike, only my shadow was pedaling in the opposite direction. Me sleeping, but something in the bed was wearing my skin and looking out the window. "These are the lives we could have had," whispered the shadows. "But you left us." I screamed. The eyes blinked, and the world blinked with them. Suddenly I was standing again. The chair gone. The door ahead was open. But a figure stood in the way. Tall. Too tall. It wore a mask made of broken mirror shards. And in its hands, it held a list. My rules. The last line had changed. No matter what happens, do not forget who you are. Because the house never forgets. And it always replaces what you throw away. The mirror-masked figure held out the new list. My fingers moved on their own. I took it. The paper burned cold in my palm. The ink pulsed, alive. It wasn't written in pen. It was written in veins. Rule 1, you're not the only you anymore. Rule 2, if it speaks with your voice, don't listen. Rule 3, only one gets to leave. Rule 4, you're already being watched from inside. Rule 5, if it smiles, run. My skin prickled. The eyes in the walls twitched. One of them started crying. I turned slowly. There was someone else standing behind me now. Me. Perfectly me. Same hair. Same clothes. Same cut on my wrist from when I broke the dinner plate last week. But its smile never moved, just sat there. Frozen. Stretched too wide. I stepped back. It stepped forward. I spoke. What are you? It spoke at the same time. What are you? And then it grinned. Its eyes rolled up into white. And it ran at me. I barely made it through the next door before it slammed shut. Now I was in a room with no lights. Just a mirror in the center. But it didn't show me. It showed scenes. Me, whispering secrets to something under my bed when I was 4. Me, talking to Miss Lila when Mom was at work. Me, feeding something small and black behind the shed. I didn't remember any of it. But the mirror did. And then I saw something new. The other me. The fake me. Wearing my face. It was out. Not in the hallway. Not in the house. Out there. At my school. My friends. My mom. I screamed and slammed my fists against the glass. The walls whispered. It got chosen. You got forgotten. It followed the rules. You broke them. And then I saw her again. Miss Lila. But younger. Crying. Holding a list of her own. Standing in this same room. You weren't the first, sweetheart, she said. But you might be the last. The door creaked open. She stood there. Not older. Not worn out from working double shifts. Not the tired mom I knew. She was perfect. That was the problem. She smiled the same way as the mirror me did. A little too wide. A little too frozen. Hey, baby, she cooed. I finally found you. I stepped back. Her eyes didn't blink. Behind her, more figures emerged. All wearing faces I trusted. My kindergarten teacher. My childhood neighbor. A kid who used to ride bikes with me. All of them, perfect. All of them wrong. They moved in sync. Too still, too smooth. Like puppets pretending to be human. Miss Lila's voice echoed from somewhere behind me. Those are the forgotten. Every person the house replaces leaves behind a memory. These are the memories, unclaimed. And now they want you to forget too. They circled me. Mom, or whatever wore her face, held out a hand. Come with us. We'll take you somewhere safe. We'll fix what's broken, but something in her tone cracked. Like the voice was rehearsed a million times. Don't go with her, whispered a voice from under the floor. A voice that sounded like me. I turned. A trapdoor had appeared beneath the rug. It pulsed with heat. The forgotten surged toward me. So I jumped. Darkness swallowed me, and I tumbled into a tunnel of breathing walls and echoing whispers. Take off the memories. Take off the face. You don't need it anymore. I hit the bottom hard. And found myself in a nursery. Except the toys were alive. The mobile above the crib spun on its own, and the stuffed animals watched me with glassy eyes. And in the crib was me. A baby. Sleeping. But not normal. It had black veins. Its breath came out as smoke. And when it opened its eyes, they were mine. The mobile began to whisper. Choose. One of you gets to leave. The other becomes part of the house. Forever. And then a figure stepped out of the corner. The mirror me. It smiled. And held a knife. The mirror me stepped forward, dragging the knife across the floor. The baby in the crib, the version of me that never grew up, began to wail. Smoke poured from its mouth. The toys convulsed, twisting into shapes no child should ever see. One leaves, the house whispered from the walls. One stays. Choose your skin. I was frozen. The knife. The crying baby. My own face staring back at me. You don't deserve to be real, my double snarled. You never followed the rules. You let her in. You let them all in. Flashes. Miss Lila crying. My mom screaming. The door, the real door, slamming shut forever the moment I broke rule number 3, never answer the knock after midnight. And now I understood. This wasn't just a haunted house. It was a prison. For versions of me who made the wrong choice. The mirror me lunged. I grabbed a shard of glass from the mobile, slicing my hand as I blocked the blade. The double hissed and stumbled back, the smoke from the baby curling around its legs like chains. You don't belong here. I screamed. You're the one who followed the rules. That doesn't make you real. The mirror me laughed. No. It makes me stronger. But then the crying stopped. The baby in the crib had vanished. Replaced by something older. A little girl. Eyes sewn shut. Hair like Miss Lila's. She opened her mouth and whispered. The rules weren't for you. They were for me. And then the crib burst into flames. The mirror me caught fire. It screamed, my voice, twisting into something inhuman. It collapsed to the floor and shattered into 1,000 shards. Each one reflected a different moment I tried to forget. Each one whispered the truth. You never had a babysitter that night. You made her up to feel safe. But you still let her in. I stumbled backward as the floor opened beneath me once more. And this time, I didn't fall. I floated. Dragged upward, into a corridor of doors, each one marked with a rule I'd broken. One of them stood open. Behind it, I saw the front of my house. I was almost out, the hallway narrowed as I stepped toward the door. Each step felt heavier, like the house was trying to remember what shape I used to be. The final door loomed before me. It looked like the front door of my home. Same wood grain. Same brass knob. Same smudge from where Mom used to hang the keys. But there was something off. The door breathed. Not metaphorically. It inhaled and exhaled, slow and wet, like lungs made of wood. I reached out. "Don't," a voice whispered behind me. I turned. Miss Lila stood there, but not broken, not stitched, not afraid. Her eyes were clear now. Her hair was long again. She was real. "This isn't the exit," she said quietly. "It's her." "Who?" "The one who wrote the rules. The one who found you." Suddenly the door creaked open by itself. A warm glow spilled out. The scent of cookies. My actual mom's laugh echoed faintly inside. But Miss Lila's face darkened. "She shows you what you want, so you walk in willingly. She doesn't drag you. You choose her." And then a woman stepped into the doorway. Her dress was long, black, and shimmered like beetle wings. Her eyes were silver ink. Her skin paper white. And in her hand, she held a long black quill made of bone. "You finally made it," she said softly, smiling. "My little protagonist." I stepped back. "You're the one who made the rules." "Of course. Rules are just bindings. You thought they were to keep you safe, but no. They were chapters. And you were my favorite story to write." Behind her, I saw something moving, countless versions of me, living and dying inside different endings. One cried in a closet. One burned in a kitchen. One held a knife. All of them looked up. "You never had a choice," she whispered. "But I'm giving you one now." She offered the quill. "Rewrite the story. Become the next author. Or go back to the beginning. And forget everything." I looked at Miss Lila. She was crying again. "Please," she said. "Don't take the pen." My hand hovered. This was it. The real ending, or another page in someone else's book. And I didn't know which one I was brave enough to choose. The bone quill pulsed in the woman's hand, like it had a heartbeat of its own. "Take it," she whispered again, her voice syrup-sweet. "You can write a world where your parents lived. Where Lila never bled. Where you were never afraid." I stared at the pen. It trembled. It called me by name. Not the name people used. Not even the one on my birth certificate. It whispered the name I screamed in dreams. The one I heard when I looked in the mirror too long. My real name. I took a step forward. Miss Lila grabbed my wrist. "She lied to me too," she said, her fingers trembling. "Told me I could rewrite the past. But you can't erase horror. You can only pass it on." The woman's smile widened, impossibly large, stretching ear to ear. Lila was a draft. A prototype. She disobeyed the rules. But you. You followed them. Even when they didn't make sense. That's what makes a good character, obedience. Suddenly, everything fell silent. The house. The hall. Even my heartbeat. And I realized. This wasn't about writing a story. It was about becoming trapped in one forever. The woman stepped back and opened a black book with a cracked leather cover. I saw my name on the final page. Beneath it, a blank line. Waiting for me to sign. And then. The walls pulsed. The floor began to drip. Blood. Ink. Both. Miss Lila screamed. The versions of me inside the other doors began to chant. A soft, trembling sound. Write the end. Write the end. Write the end. The woman held out the quill again. I reached forward. and snapped it in half. Everything stopped. No more breathing walls. No more voices. The house shuddered. And then it screamed. Not the woman. The house. The hallway collapsed behind me. Miss Lila grabbed my hand and pulled me through the glowing doorway. The real one. The unfinished one. And the house howled in fury as we escaped through a rift in the story's spine. We landed outside. Grass beneath my feet. Sky above. It was quiet. No stitched toys. No mirrored doubles. No rules. Just silence. And then Miss Lila turned to me, her voice hollow. You broke the quill. But something still wrote your name. Didn't it? My chest ached. And when I looked down, I saw ink bleeding from my veins. My veins pulsed black under my skin. Ink, not blood, was running through me. Miss Lila backed away slowly, her eyes wide. Her voice was barely a whisper. It's still inside you. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Something moved behind my eyes, like thoughts that weren't mine trying to take shape. Memories that didn't belong to me flashed through my head. A boy in a basement, screaming into a void that answered back. A girl with her tongue sewn shut writing rules in her sleep. A shadowy figure feeding a baby with paper milk. None of it made sense. But all of it felt familiar. Then I heard it again. That soft, horrible chant. Write the end. Write the end. Write the end. Only this time. It was coming from inside me. Miss Lila was crying now, stepping further away. She made you the new author, she whispered. That was her plan. Not to trap you. But to pass the pen. My fingers curled. They ached. I looked down. Black ink oozed from under my nails. They were turning into quills. No. No, no, no. This wasn't what I chose. But the moment I snapped the pen, I hadn't destroyed the story. I'd absorbed it. And stories, like parasites, need a host. I stumbled through the woods. The house was gone, replaced by trees that looked more like upright corpses than trunks. I passed a clearing. In the center sat a child. A boy. No older than 10. He held a piece of paper in his lap. He turned to me and asked, "Did you write these?" He held up the page. I didn't recognize the handwriting. But I recognized the rules. 1. Don't open the door for the knocking after 3 a.m. 2. If the man in the hallway is crying, don't comfort him. 3. Cover all mirrors before sunset. 4. If she says her name is Lila, run. I didn't write those, I lied. But I could feel the ink crawling up my throat. The boy stared at me for a long time. Then he said something that turned my bones to glass. It's okay. I wasn't supposed to live anyway. And behind him, the house started to rebuild itself. Board by board. Brick by brick. It had a new name now. Mine. Miss Lila appeared beside me. You have 2 choices, she said, her voice hollow. Let the house grow inside you. Or burn with it. The boy stood and walked toward the front door of the new house. He looked back. Will you watch me? He asked. Like she watched you. My mouth moved on its own. I'll be here. Always. The boy stepped into the new house. I wanted to stop him. To scream. To tear the place down with my bare hands. But I didn't move. Because deep inside me, beneath muscle and bone, beneath fear and guilt and grief, something was writing again. And my body was just the page. Miss Lila stood by the edge of the woods. She looked, older now. More like a ghost than a person. "You're not the first," she said. "The ink finds someone new every decade or so. Usually a child. Someone afraid. Someone obedient." I shook my head, choking back the bile rising in my throat. "I don't want this. I didn't choose this." She stepped closer, her eyes glassy. "But you followed every rule, didn't you? Even when they made no sense. Even when it hurt. The house loved that. The ink needs that." The house's lights flickered on, without electricity, without reason. And from one of the upstairs windows, I saw her. The woman with the cracked smile. The first author. Her face pressed against the glass. But her eyes. Her eyes were mine. She raised a hand and pointed to her head. Then her chest. Then her mouth. "Write. Feel. Speak. The 3 acts." Miss Lila pulled something from her coat. The old rule list. My original one. I stared at it, the paper now stiff and yellowed, like parchment. But new lines had appeared beneath the last rule. Written in my own handwriting, though I'd never written them. Rule 12, if the ink reaches your tongue, it's already too late. Rule 13, you are not the last author. Rule 14, when the door knocks again, don't answer. Thunder cracked overhead. Not natural thunder, this sounded like tearing paper and shattering bones. The forest behind me was shifting. Trees twisted like wrung-out cloth. Voices whispered from their leaves. He writes now. The new story begins. Ink for blood. Eyes for ink. Flesh for plot. I turned to run. But Miss Lila grabbed me. "You have to finish the story," she said. "Not for you. For the others. The ones still inside." I looked back at the house. Now there were dozens of windows. In each window, a child. A teenager. A reflection of me at a different age. All of them watching, waiting. The house wasn't just rebuilding itself. It was multiplying. A new structure for every rule obeyed. Every page written. Every reader caught. And I had given it an audience. Miss Lila held up a match. "Burn it," she said. "Before the last chapter is written." But even as she said it, I could feel something curling in my throat. Something alive. It wanted to speak. It wanted to end the story. By beginning it all over again, Miss Lila struck the match. The flame danced like it knew it was the last hope. But even fire hesitates when facing a story that refuses to die. I held the rule list. It trembled in my hands, whispering. Not audibly. No. The paper thought. It breathed. Burn it, I told myself. End this. Free them all. But the ink in my veins pulsed. And I saw. Pages. Hundreds. Thousands. Floating behind my eyes like ash in the wind. Each one written by a child who followed the rules. Each one ending the same way. The babysitter left me a list of rules. She wasn't the one I needed to fear. Miss Lila stepped forward, eyes desperate. Burn it now before the house writes you out. But it was too late. The door behind me opened. And they stepped out. All the children. All the authors before me. Eyes hollow. Mouths stitched. Fingers turned to ink-dipped quills. They surrounded us in silence. The boy who had entered the house now stood at the front. He spoke with a voice that belonged to all of them. If you burn the story, you burn us. If you finish the story, you become us. Choose. My mind spiraled. Fire in one hand. The final rule in the other. Rule 14. When the door knocks again, don't answer. But what if that rule wasn't for me? What if it was for you? The ink surged up my throat, burning like molten fear. My voice broke free, no longer mine. There is no end. Only retellings. Only rewrites. And one more reader. Miss Lila screamed. Drop the page. I tried. But my fingers had turned to paper. And then. A knock. Not at the house's door. At your door. The story has finished writing me. Now it's writing you. On your bed is a single piece of paper. It has rules. Rules you didn't write. Rules you must follow if you want to survive what comes next. Read them carefully. Because just like me, you weren't the one who needed to fear the babysitter. You need to fear who she was protecting you from. Blackheart the end, Blackheart. For now.